Okay, it's pretty much done. One thing I'll point out is this valve right here, which goes through here. Do not remove this if you don't have to. It is a big hassle trying to put this back in. It's got a really long spring in it, and the bores for this valve are bigger here, so it likes to jam. You really got to carefully guide it to get in here. Once you get it in, if you let it go and it goes too far forward, it jams again. Then there's another valve that drops in on top of that. Same story. And the spring has a lot of pressure, and then you drive the pin in it. It took me about 5 attempts to get that in, so that's something to watch out for. And all I have left is the manual valve. And after all that, they all still move freely. Now, messing with a valve body is always a bad idea. These are very precision, and it's really easy to screw them up. Now I can, and I probably should have, bought a replacement one, but my confidence is getting the better of me, and I'm pretty sure this is going to work. At least I'm really curious to see. And if it doesn't, I can always replace it. It's not too difficult to do, even in the car. Now, because it was missing a few check balls, I bought a complete set of new ones. Now this one was missing. Now some people say you remove that to make it shift harder. Others say if you remove that, it'll get jammed in 2 gears at once. I don't know which is true, but it's supposed to have one there, so we put one there. And here's the separator plate with the gaskets still on it. And they're in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to leave them. Now this is another common thing people modify. Now some of these holes they drill out and some they fill in. I haven't memorized which one does what, but I looked in a set of instructions that showed which holes to drill out and what sizes to drill them to, and I checked these and they're smaller than that, so either they haven't been drilled out or not by much. I was just going to buy a new one, but I couldn't find anyone selling a stock replacement separator plate, so we're going to reuse this one. And because I have a complete gasket set, I'm going to replace all the external gaskets and seals, just so I know they're all brand new. Starting with this one. And there's the governor. I decided that since I took the governor out, I may as well check it. Now, according to the book I'm following, the valve inside here With the weights all the way in, there should be a gap down here of no less than 20 thousandths. The weights all the way out, there should be a gap up here of no less than 20 thousandths. And that quite clearly does have a gap. And that one's kind of hard to see, but that one does too. So that's good. The torque converter seal looks pretty new and I don't see anything wrong with it, but I got a new one in the kit, so I'm going to replace it anyway. You know it has the right diameter for installing a torque converter seal? A Model T front wheel hub. One thing that's somewhat confusing about these is the electrical connections. This has an electrical plug on the left side. Some are one prong and some are two. Now this is a solenoid. It doesn't have a mechanical throttle kickdown. This takes the place of that. Now there's an electrical switch somewhere on the throttle linkage, and when the throttle gets past a certain point, it powers this, and this makes it downshift and raise the line pressure. If it only has a one prong connector, this is what it goes to. All Turbo 400s have that. Now the second one is kind of confusing. Now apparently some early Turbo 400s had a variable pitch converter, which was electronically controlled, and the second prong went to that. Now this is newer than that. Around 1971 and newer, all of them were two prong, and the second one went to this. This is some kind of pressure switch. It's got something to do with emission controls. One story I read is it's grounded when it's in high gear, and it sends a signal to the distributor which retards the timing. I'm not entirely sure I believe that. I've never heard anything like that before, but I just don't know. What is important is this has nothing to do with the function of the transmission. I don't have to hook this up and it'll still work the way it was originally intended to. And whatever it does, my car predates all that, so I'm going to ignore it. Now, this is the plug that was in it. It's two prong, obviously, and I could put it back in and it'll work, but there'll be one prong that's not connected to anything, and that bothered me. So just to tidy it up, I bought a new one prong electrical plug for it, like an earlier one, which is what a 65 Impala would have had originally. Now it's time to install the filter, and I kind of ran into a problem with that. And when I took this apart, it didn't have a filter in it, which that by itself is not a problem. They're cheap and I was going to install a new one anyway. Now the early Turbo 400s, like 64 and 65, had a different type of filter in them. I ignored all that and instead went by the tag on the side of this and ordered a filter for the car that this particular one was used in originally. And I got this, which is perfect for this. The bolt that holds it down was also missing, and that's the problem. I searched the internet for a filter mounting bolt, and there's a zillion different ones depending on what type of aftermarket oil pan you're using. I couldn't find any information on what a stock replacement one would be, so I just kind of made my own. I got a bolt that fit the thread size on that, and I got a bunch of washers and shimmed this up until it was level with this surface. Then, one by one, I removed washers until it cleared the oil pan. And it's finished, ready to install. Now, while I was waiting for parts, I took some time and cleaned up the housing. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. I'm pretty confident that this is going to work, but I really have no idea until I start it up and put it in gear. So this moment is both scary and exciting. So obviously the next step is to install this in the car, but that's going to be a little more work than I thought. I'm waiting on parts for that right now, and when I get back to that, we'll make another video on it. So anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.